LMS triad, looks, money, status. How do you rank those?
I would say to have the best bang for your buck, status is number one. With status, you're able to transcend barriers. Your reputation precedes you. People know who you are. As a guy that has status, which typically money's right behind that, you'll be able to unlock certain doors and you have like wide reach, right? And then after that, I would say like money's like kind of a close second because it's very difficult to have status without having the money. It kind of comes together. And then looks absolutely play a role like right behind that, because you can overcome being not the most attractive guy if you have money and status, right? We know a lot of ugly dudes that get chicks. I mean, look at some of these streamers that are losers, fat, no real maturity, whatever, but they're still getting girls. Why? Because they're famous.
Good to talk to you. Thanks for coming on the stream.
Yeah.
Obviously, we had a phenomenal show, I thought, before. You know, I don't know how the numbers were, but I guess they were, some of the best, right?
We had like 30,000 watching between us and you. I think we had 30 to 40,000 watching.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, watching live, like real time live. And then obviously, with all the clips and everything else like that, it went pretty viral. So it was a good show, man. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun, man. That was definitely a unique experience. To be able to do that like in an in-person setting, kind of put stupid chicks like that in their place. So I appreciate the invite.
Yep.
But obviously when there's that level of stupidity in the room, two reasonably minded men are gonna agree on everything and go against them.
Mm-hmm.
But today I figure maybe we should look at our points of contention, which really aren't, we don't have too many, but we certainly have maybe you favor more towards looks or towards status and money, rather than me, who might say that looks is a more important metric in terms of importance and actual realistic ways to improve upon these things. So let's kind of go through that a little bit and see where we agree, say where maybe we differ, and what's actually a good solution. How can men actually survive in this society? Because it is crazy times. I've never seen anything like the society we live in. Looking at sociology for the past 200 years or whatever, this is insane. The hypergamy and specifically the female delusion calculator, dude. Like when we put that in and then we weigh up like the actual looks percentile or just percentile overall of all these women, the disparity is so large. So what do you think about that? Like how can men actually close this gap?
Well, I think guys need to understand the reason why women are so hypergamous nowadays is because they can be, right? With the explosion of social media, internet, we're more interconnected now than ever before. And what that's allowed is it's allowed the ugly side of hypergamy to rear its face, which is basically women have this perpetual mindset that the grass is greener on the other side. And, they'll be with the guy that they're with, right? He fulfills a lot of their wants and requirements, but they'll look at something on Instagram or on TikTok and they'll see another girl getting more or another guy that's offering a better opportunity, a better experience. And what ends up happening is women, if they feel like they can do better, they will, right? And the issue here is that a lot of women have a problem with discerning men that actually want to really court them and date them and take them seriously versus men that are simply giving them attention with the goal of getting sex. Women are terrible at discerning the difference between these two things, because to them, a lot of girls want attention by any means necessary, whether it's good attention where a guy actually wants to take her seriously in quarter, or even bad attention where the guy just wants her for sexual access. So the reason why women are so insufferable nowadays is because simply they can be, and with very little repercussion. And there's not many people on the internet, right? I know we talk about this stuff and other people in the red pill sphere, but the reality is we are a minority compared to all the other idiots out there that push out propaganda that makes women feel better about themselves. And guys like us get suppressed, right? You got banned on YouTube yesterday. I've been demonetized on YouTube. I've been banned off TikTok, banned off Twitch, etc. So putting out these ideas is very taboo and it's censored. So what do women see most of the time? They see you did nothing wrong. You're beautiful no matter what. No matter how insufferable or rude you are, you're still a queen. And this is what's led to this extremely entitled mindset that many modern women have. So this is what men have to combat when they enter the dating marketplace and dealing with modern women. These women are not the women that, we have as our mothers, our grandmothers that actually respected masculinity and leadership. These are women that, number one, they think that they're better than you. Number two, they have ridiculously high standards. And then on top of that, the whole inflation is outrageous because they don't necessarily qualify for the features that they want in the guy. They want a dude that makes a bunch of money, is attractive, etc. But they're stupid. So this is where we are in the sexual marketplace now. And I think guys need to understand this and go in with their eyes wide open and be extremely selective on which girls you're going to bring into your life from a serious romantic standpoint.
Yeah. So it seems like we both see the board perfectly well. You know, we know exactly what the problem is here. So there's no disagreement there whatsoever. It's simply the hypergamy of the society. But it's literally just, you know, what can be done about this? Because we're both very logical people. You know what I mean? So you obviously have great positions a lot of the time. And I think we agree on probably 99% of issues, but maybe the solution might differ a little bit. So in terms of logical thinking, we don't really complain, the two of us. I haven't really seen, we just kind of look at where things are. I don't want people to sit here and think we're complaining about shit. We're just, you know, analyzing where we're at so that we can actually come up with a solution.
Well, you have to identify the problem. That's step one. And most guys can't even identify the problem, which is why they're so frustrated. They can't get dates. Girls treat them like shit. They're extremely angry. You know, I think a big reason why so many guys get frustrated with women is because they don't understand. Once you understand how women really think and how they behave, you can't really be mad at them for what they'll never be to you, which is what a lot of guys want, is an idealistic lover. Women are not idealistic lovers. They're opportunistic lovers. What guy can give me the best lifestyle, security, status, good looking, etc.? So once guys wake up and realize that women are not idealistic lovers like we are, it makes everything else easier to deal with, understand, and honestly, you're able to navigate the marketplace from a more educated perspective versus being angry at women all the time.
Right. No, of course. So, you know, we both see this well. But in terms of our, you know, logical pursuit, you know, you have come to the conclusion that maybe as a man, to make yourself that high value thing that's actually being you know, valued by women and actually being sought after, you look at it from, hey, how can I improve the amount of money I'm making and improve that percentile? How can I get more status? This is the solution. This is how I fix myself. So I'm actually, you know, the prize in the hypergamous society. Whereas I'm simply saying it's more realistic for most people to overcome the disparity in terms of looks maxing rather than the first option. And, you know, the thing that I want to, you know, of note that I want to say is a lot of people who have really made it as social media or, you know, political, whatever ways that people have, you know, ascribed their status or acquired their status rather, you know, they get to such a crazy, ridiculous percentile, you know, 99.99999, that they're sitting here thinking, oh, wow, I have all this money, I have all this status, I'm really not that good looking. But when we're talking about a society, right, what's accomplished by those people like Andrew Tate, who maybe isn't the best looking person, but is able to get the hottest of the hot women, that's someone who's making like, you know, I think he's close to $1 billion. So that's not realistic to recommend most people do. Whereas going from a 4 to a 6 through looks maxing and, you know, getting to like 10 to 12% body fat, that's super realistic. So how do you exactly like, you know, kind of justify that, you know, gap is what I would ask you.
Okay. So justifying the gap from a looks perspective, a financial perspective, a status perspective, specifically, which
just in terms of like what's realistic for people. Okay. Because even making $1 million a year, being a millionaire, that's really not as crazy as people think. Like that's not going to allow you to overcome like serious looks issues, you know?
Yeah.
So, and that's a crazy number to hit, right? 7 figures a year. I'm pretty sure that's like less than 0.5% of the United States. So when that number is in mind, and that's really not going to get you that far, it doesn't seem realistic to me to recommend people just money max as their way of pulling themselves out of the hole.
Yeah. So so my position on this is I'm actually very big on guys improving their looks. You know, I'm not one of these like dating coaches that's like, oh yeah, bro, it's all game. No, man, that's bullshit. Because the problem is, no matter how charming you are, how you know, how funny you are, how interesting you are, if you're ugly, girls aren't even going to give you a chance. So you need to get to a level where women aren't going to reject you outright because of the way that you look, where you can't even display your game. Like these, you know, game only guys, you know, they're bullshitting with that. Now, when it comes to money and status, this is how I look at it, right? So every woman is different based on where she is in life. Typically, the older she is, the more status and resources matter. The younger and hotter she is, the more she cares about emotional stimuli and the way that the guy looks, right? So what I tell guys is you need to have everything. Have your money on point, go to the gym, looks max, especially if you're under 6 foot tall. If you're under 6 foot tall, you must look max. There's no way around it. You need to get in the gym, need to get lean, need to be muscular, because that's going to compensate for the lack thereof that you're not over 6 feet tall. Like dating apps, for example, like Bumble and Tinder, etc. Women already get rid of like 90% of the guys off of their height parameters alone. So this is what a lot of guys that are under 6 feet are dealing with, where you guys are invisible to these women. So you need to overcome that with proper grooming, dressing well. I'm not saying you have to wear designer or whatever, but you need to wear things that look good and fit on you and accentuate your shape. What shape is that? You need to be in the gym. Obviously, a wide shoulder to waist ratio. 1.6 tends to be the ideal, right? So with guys, it's a combination, and this is why I say guys need to have all of it. Now, when it comes to the money and status, whatever, I tell guys to have a couple things in place, 5 things in place before they even think about getting married. Number 1, I want you to be a 6-figure earner. Number 2, I want you to have 6 months to 1 year of savings. Number 3, I want you to be in shape, right? No one cares and gives a f about fat people. Number 4, have had sex with 50 women, right? And then be 35 years old. Now, the body count, I get a lot of people that hate on me from the religious side of the internet, because they're like, oh, well, that's promoting degeneracy, etc. When I say have sex with 50 women, it's not a hard, fast 50. It's not like you got to have 50, or if you're at 35, you tell her, sorry, babe, can't get married, can't have a serious relationship because I'm not at my number. The reason why I prescribe that number generally is because I know once a guy has had sex with a certain amount of women, women can no longer play the game where they're leveraging sex against you for compliance, because that's what women do. It's you need to do X, Y, Z in order to get sexual access to me. And what ends up happening for a lot of guys is to get that sexual access, they'll compromise their values, they'll start simping, they'll think that the girl is better than them, and they start naturally pedestalizing her. And when you pedestalize women, they become terrible people. Women are horrible people when they have the leverage. And I don't want guys acting like Simpson idiots in order to get sexual access. And the way to kind of override that is by having sexual experience, so that pussy's not like a foreign concept to you where she can bully you and gain resources and leverage over you through sexuality. That's why I tell guys to have these things. Now, that's why I think it's so important to be to have so many different things checked out. Do you have to need to be a millionaire? No, of course not. But you definitely want to be a 6-figure earner and a higher earner, so that you're appealable to a larger demographic of women, because unfortunately, a lot of women do have standards when it comes to financial and status level. And I'll finish on this. Let's say you're a good-looking guy, but you don't have your money together. What will end up happening is you'll get a lot of casual sex. Women will hook up with you on one-night stands, etc. But it's going to be very difficult for you to retain women, right? A rich dude or a rich simp or some sugar daddy will take the girl from you to some degree. But if you only have money and you're ugly and you're a loser and you have no game, what ends up happening is Chad will take your girl for the night. You might be able to retain her with this like transactional type relationship, but she's not going to respect you. She's going to talk back to you. She's not going to go back to the kitchen. She's not going to do certain things. This is why it's so important to have everything, so that you could be a complete package. Because if you're missing one thing, what ends up happening is you're going to get burned for later.
Yeah. Okay. So I like that you make that recommendation to all men about the full package or whatever. And, you caught me a little off guard with that thing about, the 50 bodies or whatever until your reasoning. So I like what you said about, people not putting women on a pedestal anymore. And the 50 body thing obviously isn't realistic for most people. Yeah. But it does kind of ensure that outcome that no one's going to pedestalize the women. And unfortunately, it's almost impossible for dudes to not do that. Mm-hmm. You can't just tell them, oh, don't pedestalize. It's going to happen anyway. Yep. So that 50 bodies thing is, legit. But, for 99% of people, that's not ever happened. Right?
Yeah. And a lot of guys, are shocked when I say that number. But the reason why I give that number is because I just don't want guys to be controlled by women, because most girls are going to come in and like boss you around. Oh, you're not getting any nookie unless you take the trash out. Well, we don't want guys to be in a position where girls are able to boss them around to get some ass. Like if your girl's starting to like withhold sex from you for leverage and compliance, dude, you need to get rid of her. Like a woman's main agency is her sexuality. These provide very little value outside of sexuality. That's why I tell guys, never be friends with girls. Don't let her friends own you, because you're disrespecting yourself by doing it. And if your girl ever decides to withhold sex from you or whatever, you need to let her know that she's going to get kicked out the door. And that's the only way women actually respect you, is when they know that you have sexual access to other women. This is why social proof is so important. This is why even an ugly guy that has girls around him has a good amount of access, because women only respect men that have other women. Like that's just how it is, unfortunately, with them. Women are not capable of making their own independent decisions. They need the collective. They need other people to verify your status or verify where you are. This is a big reason, actually, why Jeffrey Epstein, that was compromising all these politicians and powerful people, one of the things that he did was Ghislaine Maxwell would be going to the UN, talking about the environment, all this other stuff, right? And she'd deal with all these like very high-level politicians. Then they'd have parties. Guess who brought all the girls? It was Jeffrey Epstein. He would bring all the girls who were of age, right, at these parties, right, because he would get them from a guy named Jean Brunel. because he worked for Victoria's Secret. He had all these models. They'd go to these parties, have all these beautiful women. Guys want to get to know, who is this guy, Jeffrey Epstein? Yeah, he has all these Victoria's Secret models there because the guy that backed him, Les Wexner, was the owner of Victoria's Secret, and Brunel worked for him getting the models. So they bring these girls. So he's there with Ghislaine Maxwell, and he has a bunch of models there. People are going to want to know who he is. Oh, come to my ranch in New Mexico. Oh, come to meet me in West Palm Beach. Oh, come to my house in France, in New York City. So he has, the social proof with the women there, the location proof. And then when they do show up, there's 15-year-olds there. Now they're compromised. So that's an example of like how powerful social proof is when you have other women with you, where you can get these diplomats and powerful people to show up at your house. Next thing you know, there's underage girls there and they're compromised. That's a big part of the game that he had.
Right. Absolutely. So on the LMS triad, looks, money, status, how do you rank those? In terms of importance to,
Good question.
Or let me specify the question a little bit more. On the LMS triad, where do you rank them in terms of importance and, what people should actually work to, improve first?
Sure. So every woman is different. Some women might prioritize looks and then money behind that. Some girls prioritize status, then money behind that, or some girls go status, then looks after that. I would say to have the best bang for your buck, right? Status is number one, because with status, you're able to transcend barriers. Your reputation precedes you. People know who you are. So as a guy that has status, which typically money's right behind that, you'll be able to unlock certain doors and you have like wide reach, right? And then after that, I would say like money's like kind of a close second because it's very difficult to have status without having the money. It kind of comes together.
Right.
And then looks absolutely play a role like right behind that, because what I will say is this: you can overcome being not the most attractive guy if you have money and status, right? We know a lot of ugly dudes that get chicks. I mean, look at some of these streamers that, that are losers, fat, no real maturity, whatever, but they're still getting girls. Why? Because they're famous. But then with that said, there's other guys also that are very good looking, Chads, that are able to close. But I would say on the grand scheme of things, like overall, if you wanted to be the most attractive to the most women, status is by far, I would say the number one thing, but everything else is closely behind.
No, but like specifically, what do you think is most realistic for people to actually, get to that level where it's something that you could leverage in order to get women,
Oh, what's the easiest? Okay. So, your looks is in your control.
The most realistic.
Yeah. So looks is in your control.
So you would say, okay, so we agree on that for sure. That's obviously true, and I'm glad you are on the same boat with that.
Yeah, that's you really one, because that's like in your control. Like no guy should be fat. Every guy should be taking skincare. Grooming themselves, dressing well with fitted clothing. That's 100% in your control.
Okay, and I'm going to ask you one more question just so I could kind of get to know where you are and see where we might disagree. What does your ideal society look like? Not, what would you do to get there, or, what political bills need to be passed, just in terms of like the dating market. Like what would you say would be ideal? Like, people getting married, like monogamous relationships, or, what does that kind of look like? Can you lay that out?
Yeah, I mean, I think ideal is, lots of nuclear families. I think the nuclear family is the backbone to any society. I talk about this quite a bit, on my show, and why I'm so against feminism, because I think feminism was the death blow to the nuclear family. But realistically speaking, like that's the ideal, right? Nuclear families, women that are at a certain sexual market value getting with men that are at a comparable sexual market value. But I'll be 100% honest with you, that's never going to happen. And the reason why is because women have far too much latitude in the sexual marketplace nowadays. They make their own money. They have their own status. They have their own careers. So whenever women increase their own social status, they look for a partner that's either at the same social status or higher. So I don't predict that women are going to concede any of the territory they've taken, or they're not going to concede any of the space that they've taken through feminism. They fought 60 to 70 years to leave the kitchen, and they're here now. I would argue women have more rights and privileges than men do, and I just don't foresee them walking that back. So I think what's going to end up happening is the sexual marketplace, there's going to be more disparity between men and women. So in other words, a minority of the men are going to have the majority of the women, and I think that minority of men is going to dwindle more and more. 10 years ago, I would have said maybe 20% of the men were having sex with 80% of the women. I would argue now it's probably between 10 to even single digits of that small percentage of men having sex with a majority of the women.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And my prediction that I've always, said on my show has been that there's going to be a huge, amount of jealousy from the people who are are outside of that small percentage of men who, and this could eventually, it's not there quite yet because people don't know. I think they're kind of starting to with, shows like yours, maybe people like me talking about it, but there's eventually going to be so much resentment that it's going to get to a point of violence, whether that be towards women or towards that, small percentage of men who are dominating in terms of the sexual market. I can't exactly say, where the resentment is going to fall, but I think that there's going to be an increase in the violent incel, attacks and things of this nature, as unfortunate as that is. But things are getting so bad, things are getting so that I really hope we don't go that direction. Do you foresee anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, you're 100% right, and I'll tell you why. If you look at the Middle East, right, these places that openly practice polygamy, a lot of the times young guys tend to be violent, do a whole bunch of bullshit, commit acts of violence, terrorism, whatever it may be. I'm not going to sit here and say that it's attributed only to the fact that it's a polygamous society, but there's been studies that show that polygamous societies tend to be less stable than monogamous-led societies, right, of the West, where, Christianity tends to be the prevailing religion. So, there's nothing more dangerous than a guy that has no family, is angry, and doesn't have sexual access. That creates quite a bit of frustration, quite a bit of pent-up anger, and it definitely creates a lot of problems. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely foreseeable.
Yeah, I mean, quite honestly. And, the thing that I'll say is, going back to women and where they are, people created a society, whether it's the men who are dating down or it's the women, that it makes it so easy and so much more fun for people to take advantage of their place, whether you're the man who's being able to slay all these women or the women who are having access to men outside of their, percentile range, that they're going to take advantage of it. So I don't think people should really necessarily resent women for taking advantage of the society that they were born into. So I don't think that any violence or any, sort of resentment has any place in this world. Do you think people should really resent women for kind of taking advantage of their place?
Yeah. So I have a saying. I say you can either understand women or you can respect them, but you can't do both. And once you understand them, you just can't respect them as equals. And if you can't respect them as equals, you shouldn't be getting mad at them because they're slaves to their biology even more so than we are. Like people need to the young guys need to understand that this whole concept of, women being able to make their own decisions with when it comes to sexuality and getting a partner, all this other stuff. This is relatively new stuff. And since the beginning of time, women have always needed men for protection, for, resources, etc. So women pick the best guy that they can because it's a part of their hypergamy. And the other thing guys need to know is no matter how much money a woman has, no matter how successful she is, how much resources she has, she's still going to want a guy that has more than her, even when she has adequate enough for herself and a partner. And the reason for that is because women don't provide security to men. That's why I tell guys, who gives a fuck about these educated girls? Get a girl that's going to respect you. That's more important than getting with a girl that's educated and has money and all this other stuff, because she's going to be a pain in the ass later on. And she's going to have high standards. So I think with guys, don't resent women for what they're never going to be to you, which is, like I said before at the top of the show, women are not idealistic lovers like we are. If we like a girl, we like that girl. It doesn't matter if she loses her job. It doesn't matter if she gains a little bit of weight or whatever. A lot of times guys are going to stick it out with a woman. Women, however, are not idealistic lovers to us. They're opportunistic lovers. So as soon as you are no longer the man that she fell in love with, she's going to start to resent you. She's not going to want to be with you, and she'll look for a guy that used to be what you used to be, if that makes sense. So I think guys just need to understand this, accept it, and navigate in this new normal. But the thing that gets guys pissed off is they think that women are idealistic lovers. That's the biggest frustrating thing for young men.